The man everyone admired was, for me, a prison with the face of love. With that single sentence, Ali MacGraw breaks half a century of silence. At 85, stripped of fear and pretense, she decides to tell what Hollywood's dazzling lights once concealed. The price of loving Steve McQueen, the king of cool, the idol who could conquer the world, but not his own shadow. In her Santa Fe home, surrounded by dry air and a sun that never seems to fade, Ali speaks with the calm of someone who has survived it all. "I knew I'd get into trouble with Steve," she says, "and I was right. I loved him more than I loved myself." For decades, the world remembered her as the woman from Love Story, a symbol of innocence and beauty. But behind the screen lay a story of jealousy, control, and fear. McQueen, with his irresistible magnetism, wrapped her in a love that soon became suffocating. What the world saw as a cinematic passion was, in truth, a gilded cage. Today, Ali isn't seeking pity. She's seeking truth. She speaks to free the woman who stayed silent for too long. Because, as she says, silence kills too. It just takes longer. Do you want to know how the most beloved woman of the 1970s fell into the abyss and found her way back? Don't look away. What follows reveals the true face of love and fear. Before her name became legend, Ali MacGraw was just a New York girl with a dream and a camera in her hands. Her beauty wasn't loud. It was serene like a single piano note at dusk. In a world full of noise and competition, that quietness was her power. She began in fashion, under the keen eye of editor Diana Vreeland, who saw in her more than a pretty face. She saw character, an elegant melancholy. Magazines adored her, cameras followed her, and soon Hollywood came knocking. Her debut in Goodbye, Columbus marked the beginning of a meteoric rise. But it was Love Story, 1970, that turned her into a global phenomenon. With a single glance, Ali could make millions cry. The line, "Love means never having to say you're sorry," was etched into the collective memory as an anthem of impossible love. She became America's sweetheart, the face of tenderness. Off-screen, her life seemed just as perfect. She married Robert Evans, Paramount's most powerful producer, a man of elegance and ambition. They had a son, a home, and everything the world calls success. To Hollywood, Ali had it all: beauty, fame, love, and a picture-perfect family. But fate, capricious as always, was already writing its next chapter. Because on set, among the smoke and studio lights, she was about to meet the man who would change her life forever, Steve McQueen, the king of danger, the man who would take her from heaven to hell. It was 1972. The studios roared with the sound of engines and the scent of celluloid. On the set of The Getaway, two worlds were about to collide. Ali MacGraw, Hollywood's new muse, and Steve McQueen, the man everyone called the King of Cool. McQueen needed no introduction. He had the kind of magnetism you can't learn or fake. He was wild, unpredictable, like an animal that's lived too long in freedom. His presence filled every room, his gaze disarmed, his silence intimidated. He was desire and danger all at once. Ali, then married to producer Robert Evans, knew she should keep her distance, but fate doesn't care for warnings. In her memoir, she left behind a line that sounds almost prophetic. "I knew I'd get into serious trouble with Steve, and I was right." The chemistry between them was instant, almost electric. On set, every look sparked rumors. Off-camera, passion ignited beyond control. The public adored it. Their on-screen love story felt real because it was. But that authenticity came at a cost. When news of their affair broke, Hollywood shook. Ali had crossed a sacred line. She'd left her husband, the man who had built her career, for the most desired actor in the world. The press turned her into a villain, the woman who betrayed for love. While The Getaway conquered the box office, Ali's life was quietly collapsing behind the flashbulbs. Professional success had turned into a hollow echo, and the love that once felt like a dream began to smell of guilt and fate. What the world celebrated as a passionate romance was, for her, the beginning of a storm she would never forget. In 1973, after the scandal that shook Hollywood, Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen sealed their love with a wedding that seemed written by the gods of cinema. Magazines hailed them as Malibu's golden couple, two stars shining over the ocean, bound by passion and rebellion. From the outside, it looked like a dream. A house by the sea, parties filled with celebrities, photographs bathed in the golden light of the California sunset. But inside those glass walls, the air grew heavy. Before their marriage, McQueen had forced her to sign a prenuptial agreement. If they ever divorced, she would receive nothing, and more cruelly, he imposed a silent condition. She had to abandon her career. "I don't want a wife under the spotlight," he told her. "I want a woman who waits for me at home." Ali agreed, out of love, fear, and the fragile illusion of keeping him close. Years later, she would summarize it with bitter clarity. "I cooked, I cleaned, I made myself small, all to keep him." That was the beginning of her confinement. While McQueen filmed, raced motorcycles, and basked in public adoration, Ali became a shadow, caring for her son Joshua and watching over her husband's unpredictable moods. Steve's jealousy was fierce. He raged if she spoke to other men, if she smiled too brightly, if she came home a little too late. Yet he never denied himself his own indulgences, flirting, drinking, disappearing for nights on end. The paradise of Malibu turned into a gilded cage. The silences weighed more than words, and solitude became a permanent guest. McQueen sank deeper into alcohol and drugs. Ali, desperate not to lose him, followed him down the same spiral. The woman who once made the world dream now looked in the mirror and barely recognized her own face. Her story became a painful lesson that love, when it demands submission, ceases to be love and becomes an invisible form of captivity. Paradise had turned into a battlefield. The bright Malibu days were gone, replaced by a suffocating routine. Jealousy, arguments, long silences. Ali and Steve were trapped in a vicious circle where every glance could ignite, every word could wound. Consumed by addiction, McQueen became erratic. He spent endless nights away from home, returning furious or hollow, unable to recognize the woman waiting for him with a shattered heart. Rumors of infidelity multiplied. Ali, who had given up everything for love, began to feel the shame of someone realizing she had lost it all, even herself. To endure the emptiness, she began drinking more. Wine, at first a comfort, soon became her enemy. Loneliness stalked her through the house like a ghost, whispering what she refused to hear, that love had become her punishment. One day, exhausted by shadows, Ali finally found the courage to speak the truth she'd buried for years. She wanted to act again. Cinema was the only thing that reminded her she was still alive. He looked at her with an icy stare and said, "If you do that, we're getting divorced." In that moment, Ali understood. Love had turned into possession. They were no longer a couple. They were a cage. In 1978, after years of passion and wounds, they signed the divorce papers. Ali left with little more than her sadness and her son. 2 years later, fate closed the circle. Steve McQueen died of cancer at the age of 50. When Ali received the news, she felt an impossible mix of pain and relief. "I wish we could have grown old together, sober," she said later. It was a sentence that held everything: love that endured, forgiveness that freed her, and grief for what could never be. After years of storm, Ali MacGraw chose to face her truth. In 1991, she published Moving Pictures, not a memoir, but a confession. In its pages, she spoke of her fractured childhood, of fame that overwhelmed her, of the love that broke her, and of the alcohol that almost consumed her. The world listened with respect. Moving Pictures became a symbol of courage and honesty. For the first time, a Hollywood star stripped away the glamour and showed her scars. Millions of women saw themselves in her, the woman who loved too much, who fell, but had the strength to rise again. Soon after, Ali made a radical choice. In 1994, she left Hollywood behind. The flashes, the red carpets, the noise. She moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the mountains touch the sky and time seems to pause. There, she found what she'd never had before: silence. Her life became simple. She practiced yoga at dawn, meditated at sunset, painted, tended her garden, and shared her home with rescued animals. Over the years, she remained sober for 3 decades, a quiet, immeasurable victory. Ali also turned her pain into purpose. She began collaborating with IBU Movement, an organization that supports women artisans around the world. Drawing from her own experience, she became an advocate for independence and female dignity, 2 things she had learned to claim, slowly and courageously over time. Today, those who know her don't see only the actress from Love Story. They see a woman reborn, a woman who understands that true beauty doesn't lie in youth or fame, but in the serenity of someone who has survived herself. Ali MacGraw never returned to acting, yet her life itself became her greatest performance. At 85, Ali MacGraw lives a life that no longer needs applause or cameras. In her adobe home in Santa Fe, dawn arrives with the sound of the wind and the scent of rain on earth. Her days are simple: brewing tea, tending her garden, breathing. She doesn't chase happiness, she cultivates it quietly, with the serenity of someone who has made peace with her past. She never remarried. When asked if she missed having a partner, she smiled softly and said, "I don't need anyone else to feel complete." In 2016, fate reunited her with Ryan O'Neal on stage in Love Letters. It was a reunion filled with tenderness and nostalgia, as if life itself had closed a perfect circle. Two souls who, after half a century, still understood love in silence. Ali often says in interviews, "I don't rewrite the past and I don't dream about the future. I just try to live fully in the present." She doesn't deny her love for Steve McQueen, nor does she romanticize it. "There were wonderful days and terrible ones. I'm not a victim. I'm a woman who learned how to live." There's still a spark in her eyes, the same intensity as before, but softer now, wiser. The woman who once burned in the fire of fame and passion has become a symbol of calm, resilience, and truth. Out of darkness came her light, out of her wounds, her freedom. And in that quiet peace, Ali MacGraw finally learned not just to exist, but to live. The story of Ali MacGraw isn't just the tale of a woman who loved a legend. It's the story of a woman who was broken by love, by fame, and by her own shadows, but who found the strength to be reborn. Her life reminds us that no wound is final, and that even the most shattered heart can learn to beat again, gently. Ali MacGraw is no longer just the heroine of Love Story. She is a symbol of freedom, of courage, of living without masks. And you, how many times have you had to rebuild yourself to feel whole again? Have you ever freed yourself from something or someone you once thought you couldn't live without? If this story has touched your heart, leave a like, share this video, and subscribe, because we all have a story worth telling and a life still waiting to be lived.